to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, I'm so spoiled. I'm so spoiled. Happy Saturday, everyone. This is so super fun. I'm obsessed. Whatever they tell me to do, I do. They just tell me where I need to be. Rachel, Tammy just call. They say, Cheldin, you have to be here at whatever time. I show up and I'm super excited to do so. So I'm spoiled to be here chatting with all of you. Today, we're going to talk about my morning message practice. So I'll give you a little spiel a little bit about who it is I am and how I got to this point. Again, my name is Cheldin Barlatt Rumer. I'm the CEO and executive producer of This Is It Network. This Is It Network is a global digital streaming service that produces content less than 10 minutes per segment that connects remarkable women to inspiring stories. We do that each and every day through our growing community, our engaging content, and the real connections that we provide. Now, that I've said multiple times. I've said it over and over and over again. And it has been a fabric of who it is that I am and what it is that I do. But getting here has not always been a straight line. The journey has been long and filled with a number of different rest stops. And I often get asked, how do I stay motivated? How do I stay positive? And if you can feel it, if you're watching, it was even more intense when we were shoulder to shoulder and face to face. I have a superpower. I transfer my energy from myself to other people. It's just a thing in which that I do. I know that if you see the red lipstick and the big smile, that you will feel a certain type of way. And I use that superpower wisely. But I also know that I am outnumbered by individuals that are introverts, that don't smile all the time and don't make friends in the produce section. I know that. And so in doing so, I want to make sure that everyone knows that they can create a practice to be able to get closer to using their voice the way in which they'd like to use their voice, to being present the way in which they would ideally like to be present. Now, I know that there are significant issues, both internally and externally, that are happening. But I am a true believer that you can control what you can control, and really focusing on how to utilize a mindset and a practice in order for you to navigate your day, each and every day, in a unique space. I know that a lot of us out there are maybe overdue or overwhelmed with positivity, and they may feel as if there are too many people out there being positive. And for me, there's never too many people. There are dark days in which we cannot control and things that are coming at us in such an aggressive way that there needs to be some space. There needs to be a retreat where I can find joy and remember why I'm joyous in the first place, what I'm grateful for, what I have accomplished, even though I have a far way to go. So I have to be honest with you, in my journey that has had a number of different roads, I've been lucky enough to survive these past 2 years. And all of us are very well aware of what 2020 and its cousin 2021 has done to all of us, right? We were like, will you be the nicer cousin? No, you had to come in hot too. Why? Why did you have to do that, right? In that way. And so we know if we are anything, we are resilient. If we are anything, we are better when we are working together. And in fact, it does take a village. And so what happened, even with the positivity that hopefully I'm radiating on this call, the first 2 weeks in which we were in quarantine, I was not well. I could not find my lashes. I did not comb my weave. I looked crazy. And my husband was extremely concerned, right? Is she okay? Before quarantine, I call it BQ, before quarantine, we had a studio in Center City, Philadelphia, where folks would come to our studio and I would interview them side by side, shoulder to shoulder. And I get to share that superpower, that energy with them face to face. And abruptly, again, in those moments where we all got that notice that that would no longer be the case. And I thought it was only for a couple of weeks, and those couple of weeks became months, and so on and so on. And the first 2 weeks of that, I was not well. The person that had that energy and that huge smile, I could not find my lipstick. I had no interest in putting it on. I had no interest in putting on a zipper and a button. It was stretch pants and pajamas for as long as I could remember. And truthfully, I didn't know what I was going to do next. A lot of people who want to speak to you want to claim that this is inherent and this is always going to be easy. that they went from living in a car to being on stage, and you can do it too. Well, my friends, that's long. It's a long version of that. That story has been condensed for you to digest, but it isn't the full story. And those of us that are positive, and those that want to do better and want to smile every single day, have to work to do so. And so I quickly realized that I had to put my big girl pants on, and I needed to figure out what I was going to do next. I needed to put down the sleeve of Oreos that I was eating like cobs of corn, if you can envision. It wasn't cute, right? And I had to put it down, and I needed to figure out what I was going to do. I needed to be able to lean into the resources that I have. And just like we are talking here on Zoom, I began to Zoom. And where I was completely confined in my thought process and geographically limiting myself to my studio in Philadelphia, again, that I loved so much, now the world opened up to me. It opened up to me globally. And This Is It Network now has contributors from Australia and Trinidad, clients in Germany, as well as Absec in New Jersey. And it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But I needed to do what I had taught people to do so many times and so many years before. I needed to find my voice. I needed to ensure that I was motivated and accountable, not only to the community that I had created, BQ, before quarantine, but to myself. I knew what it feels like, and I wear my lipstick for me, but I knew what it feels like to put on my lipstick, to tack on these lashes, to comb the weave, and how I put my shoulders back. And I really welcomed myself into the world. And I knew that I needed to figure out what my rhythm was going to be. And I called that rhythm my morning message. I decided that each day at 11 o'clock Eastern, I was going to pop up. I was going to pop up and be present for individuals who followed, fanned, and liked me, for those that paid attention to what it is that I had going on, and those that checked in on me during the times of the Oreos and the lack of lashes. Those individuals that were like, are you okay? Are you well? I knew that they needed it as well. And so often I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said I was going to use my superpower. I was going to show up each and every day, and I was going to share a morning message. Now, what would the message be? Now, even before quarantine, I was a lover of all things quotes. And this came from my dear, dear mother. I owe my mother not only life, but everything up between birth and now. And the interesting thing, as a young teen, I did not necessarily treat her that way. I have to be honest with you. So I'm an immigrant. I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa. And I come from a crazy, amazing, and beautiful West African family. And when I leave you here, we will be celebrating every father under the sun on this Father Day weekend. And I'll be heading down to hang out with all of them and eating my beautiful food and dancing to wonderful music. And I appreciate that, as I proudly am sitting here talking to you at 43 years old. But at 18, I could probably not say that I appreciated every moment of that house. My mother had a practice, didn't call it that at the time, didn't call it really anything. From as long as I can remember, even in elementary school, she would leave Post-its everywhere in the house. You would find them as you were brushing your teeth. You would have to move them. You'd find them behind the door. You'd open and get a utensil from the drawer, and there would be a Post-it there. And these Post-its would have quotes from everyone: scholars, musicians, scientists, actors. There'd be quotes everywhere in the house. Before Pinterest was a thing, my mother was actually pinning Post-its throughout the whole entire home. And my ungrateful self came home, Christmas vacation, my senior year of college. And I'm like, ugh, right? Probably from a late night with friends from home. I just walked up to her, as ungrateful as I was. I'm like, what is with the Post-its? Everywhere, all the place, Mom, everywhere, on my pillow, in the door, they're everywhere. And as I sat there in my ungrateful self at 18 years old, she looked at me and said, there will be times in your life when you will not have the words. And I have left the words of others so you can use them when you need them. And I, at that point, was broken. I was like, this woman that I've been neglecting all of this time is an absolute wonder. And I've held that so deeply And I tap into the words of others, whether it was in a space where it's from scripture, we were raised in the church, or it's just quotes of miraculous people who have survived and thrived. We often don't have the words. And so it is wonderful to be able to share the words of others to inspire us to move forward. All of the people that were within these quotes didn't get to where it is that they were without trials and tribulations and living a little bit in the valley. We know what that is, right? We have the hills of our lives and the valleys of our lives. Some of us take residence in the valley. And I'm here to tell you, whether it's through the morning message that I provide, or whether it's through a quote in which you read or scripture in which you refer to, it is time for you to only visit the valley. Do not receive mail in the valley. Do not host parties in the valley. It is not a place in which you reside. It is a place in which you visit. Think about it like happy hour. You can visit happy hour. You can't stay all night, right? You can go occasionally. You can tap in for what it is that you need, but you have to leave. You have work to do. You have hills to climb. And so often, without the words of others, without the support of others, and those others don't necessarily have to be as inspirational as my mother was from birth. It doesn't even have to be close friends. It could be tapping into a morning message from a stranger or a quote from a scholar. But finding the words in others so you can apply them to your own life. Now, here's another thing. Each quote that I share, each message that I share is interpreted differently by different people, right? And how it is that you choose to interpret it alone is a practice. The fact that you digest it, you think about it in that moment, and you think about how it applies to you is in fact a practice. It requires you to be still, something that I have a hard time doing. But at that moment, each and every day, Monday through Friday, I am still at 11 o'clock Eastern. And on Friday, my dear friends, and this just happens to be a coincidence, on Friday of this week was my 300th morning message. 300 times I showed up. 300 times I delivered, whether it be a quote, a speech, a dictation, an opportunity to not only inspire folks for the day, but keep them motivated each and every day. I provided myself with a consistent home, a practice like working out, like meditation, and like yoga. I gave myself an opportunity to not only sit with what I needed in that day, but be able to offer others what they may need in that moment. Now, on that journey, in these crazy, uncertain times, in these unsettled spaces that we are in, so many colleagues were like, don't you get tired, girl? Like, you are just talking to the wind. Don't you get tired? Just talking to people every single day, talking to yourself. No one, you don't know if people are tuning into you. You don't know if people are watching. And for that, I say, my darlings, I don't know who needs me and who doesn't. On any given day, right? On any given day, we could be just fine. And on the next day, my darlings, we might need a little bit of a morning message. It's the rhythm that I adhere to. It is the allowing myself to be present for myself, but also to be available to other people. Because there's strength in that for me too. There's strength in the community in which I educate and lead, and there's also strength in having a community at all. We are outnumbered, us ambitious folks, those individuals that choose to meet together at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. We are outnumbered by people who have yet to get out of bed. We are outnumbered by people who don't understand our ambition and are confused by our dedication to the dreams that lie between our ears. We are outnumbered by people who are satisfied. We are outnumbered by people who are okay just being okay, right? We are outnumbered by the people who change their walk because their knee hurts, but don't address the fact that the pain is coming from their knee at all. We know what that's like, right? Some people are like, that's just the way my back is. Why don't you fix your back? Why don't we talk about what's wrong with the back? No, I'll just sit like this moving forward. So they'd rather sit the rest of their life uncomfortable than addressing what it is that they need to address. We're not doing that, my new friends. Whether it's a morning message practice or finding the words of others or teaming up and communicating with the community in which you are lucky to be a part of, the goal is for you to find your voice, whatever that voice may be. As I mentioned before, I have a lot of energy. I'm naturally an extrovert. I've said this multiple times, and if you listen to any of the other speaking that I've done with Rise gatherings, you will hear me say this. You know, I only have 2 volumes. I have silence and I have Cheldin, which is a scream. And in my life, I find it tragic when those that have expertise and those that have true skills have no voice to share it. Meanwhile, those that are skillless, those that are mediocre in what it is that they can provide, are pounding their chest and standing on the mountain and screaming. I think it's sad that the individuals that are deserving of opportunity simply have yet to find their voice. So as an example, as a representation, I share my voice to say that you can do the same. I scream my dream each and every day in the hopes of encouraging others to do the same. Now, screaming your dream for me isn't yelling for the sake of yelling. It isn't just running out of the building screaming that it's on fire. It's about being intentional in what it is that you are saying. It's about using words in such a powerful way. Oftentimes, hate, anger, disdain is used in such an intentional divide. Oftentimes, joy, happiness, positivity is used in a loose and beautiful space, right? I love, you love, right? But the difference between going like this and going like this is that one is more intentional than the other. So the focus in which that is made in our world is on the hate and the disdain and the anger. And I choose to create joy and happiness and do so intentionally. And use it as a straight line and show up and say it often and loudly so I cannot be ignored. This Is It Network literally is a diverse and beautiful place, not because I curated it that way, but because that is the way in which my life is. I've created my utopia of women, all different shapes and sizes and colors, because the world is better that way, because we learn that way, because it's delicious that way, because we dance that way. And when we are exposed to that beautifulness, when I can learn your quote and use that as mine for the moment, when you can learn my quote and use that as yours for the day, we are all better for it. But we must be intentional about how we use our voice, how we show up for ourselves. We have no problems yelling about what we are mad at, but we very seldom yell about what we are joyful for. And so that's my space. It's about using your voice and the tone of your voice to celebrate who you are, to celebrate what you have, as opposed to dwelling on what you don't have, as opposed to being comfortable with your back hurting and adjusting accordingly. I want you to address the ache in your back and walk straight into the life that you deserve. Now, I can't say that this was easy for me. I have to be really quite honest, and truly avoided it at leaps and bounds. I do not want to deal with issues. You don't want to deal with problems. I want to live on the sunnier side of things, but all of us know us pushing down problems only makes them bubble up. They will find their way out, and it will have nothing to do with the actual issue. My husband knows often, right? Like, he's like, what's wrong with the dishes? It's not about the dishes, right? All of those things truly happened because I kept it bottled down, and now I know to address it at the moment. It's a very interesting thing. Tammy had mentioned I was a former Division I athlete, and at the time, I was a fast human. I ran very, very quickly. I do not do so now. I only really run when people are chasing me, and no one has chased me in a very long time. So I work out, but the sprinting is not a reality, okay? And so as a sprinter, if any of you ever ran track and you have these wonderful coaches who tell you, oh my goodness, you should run hurdles. You should run the hurdles. Cheldin, you would be great at the hurdles. You should run the hurdles. And I would say, absolutely not, coach. I am not intentionally running with something in my way. You are not going to have me speed up with actual metal pieces in my way. I will gladly run straight. I will gladly have 2 turns in my life, but I will not run with things intentionally in my way. But the joke is truly on me because I've become an entrepreneur. And I'm telling you, I have chosen to run the hurdles. I have chosen to run with things in my way. I have chosen to run with anticipation that I may fall down only to get up and do it all over again. I'm telling you that life is hard, but similar to understanding the hurdles, the steps, and then the reaching, and then the pacing between each, we can better prepare for the things that are coming our way. We can't avoid them, but we can better prepare for them. And my morning message helps me in better preparing. Some of you may want to prepare in the evening as you digest your day. Some of you may want to prepare in the morning before the day starts. I'm lucky. I have 2 beautiful children, but everybody in my house may be a blessing to me. Doesn't get up until later than I do. I'm an early riser, and I attack my morning before my morning attacks me. I've decided that I will have my coffee and my peace, and I will plan my day and the morning message included before I hear the feet come down the stairs who need me, who want mommy. I've set my life up. I've created my practice so I can be better for them, so I can be better for myself and for the community in which I have created. I determined that was my morning message, stemming from that ungrateful child standing in the doorway as my mother explained why the Post-its were so necessary. Knowing now, similar to reflecting on the coach that told me that I needed to run the hurdles, there's a lot of people that have been in my life that have led me when I didn't know I was being led. And in often cases, I am that for a number of different people. I show up from Linda in Doylestown, and Sally in Cherry Hill, and Star in Portland, because I don't know who's going to need me, who's going to understand that broken crayons still color, who's going to understand that you need to tell and not sell, who's going to need in the particular moment that everything is going to be okay if you show up the best of yourself for the rest of your community. And for me, I have to say, some days they're not cute. Some days I retreat to the sleeve of Oreos that I was eating like a cob of corn. And then I have to remind myself, I open a book, I sit with a friend, and I understand the importance of my voice, the purpose of my bestseller. And what does that mean? And I think a lot of individuals have kind of set up their lives where they will have no valleys. They want to have no issues, but there are no lessons in a world full of all glory. There's no lessons in living solely in the hills. Your lessons come from the valley. No one wants to read a book about an individual who had it all and continues to have it all, and their children had it all, and everyone had it all. That's not a bestseller. No one reads that book. No one turns that into a movie, my friends. You are living a life of a blockbuster. You are living a life of a bestseller. And with that, in every chapter, it changes. In every chapter, you learn. In every chapter, you build, if you choose to. If you create a practice from it, if you take the lessons, not only in every day, but every week and every quarter and every year, and you ensure that you are better for it. I was talking to a colleague the other day, and I found it really interesting. And I had brought up to him, I said, remember when we were young, every year we were expected to know more. Every year, we were expected to, in first grade, I know this, and in second grade, I will know more. In third grade, I know this, but in fourth grade, I will know more. In senior year of high school, I know this, but in college, I will know more. And for whatever reason, at age 21, we're good. I don't need to learn anymore. And that's not the case. Organizations like this is it network, and a number of other individuals that create that continued education as adults is so necessary. Just like kids, each and every year, we need to learn more from year to year to be better, to be stronger, to be true givers and contributors to our community, but ultimately so we can thrive. so we can show up, so we can understand that the valley is just a place in which you visit and not your permanent residence, that you long for gaining that hill, but knowing on the way up, there will be a few rest stops. And what does that really mean? Some individuals will say to me, Cheldin, oh, I just need to start over. I need to start all over. And I say, when you are lost, do you go all the way back home? Or do you start from where you were actually lost? It's not about throwing everything out. It's about beginning new from where you stand. The morning message is that for me. It's not about, oh, this isn't working. Oh, no one's listening. It's tomorrow is a new day, and I will show up again, and I will share again, and they will share again, and new people will get new perspective. You do not say, oh my goodness, I'm lost. I'm going to go all the way back home. You call a friend, you call that destination. You say, I see a Wawa to the left and there's a Sunoco on the right. Where am I supposed to go? Right? You gain direction from where you are. And that morning message for me, this routine is that direction from where I am. In the moment, in the day, it's that direction that I need in order to move forward. It is a hard thing. What we've elected to do, the majority of you that are listening have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? Slightly a sickness, right? We've decided to quit our 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours for ourselves. Crazy, right? And so we are led by that. But we are also, again, outnumbered by individuals who would never attempt it. So it is difficult. So it requires discipline. It requires structure. It requires a practice. I call mine my morning message. You can call yours whatever it is. But where do you seek not only the joy in your life, but the reminders? And this is the key one. We are dwellers. We are dwellers on what we do not have, what we have not done, and what we have done wrong. We carry that. We carry it every day. We lead conversations with it. We believe that that is the only thing that people are going to remember once we have left the room, and that is a lie. You must show up for yourself and remind yourself why you deserve what it is that you want. 9 chances out of 10, 9.9.9 chances out of 10, you have done better than you have done worse. What you choose to carry into your day is the difference. Now, leaving that behind, my darlings, yes, is difficult. But if you only have 2 arms, and if you are utilizing one fully, maybe 1.5, to carry what you do not have, what you are not capable of, who you have let down, what bills you have not paid, you have literally no room in your arms for joy. You have no room in your arms for accomplishment. You have no room in your arms for what you deserve and what's waiting for you around the corner. So you must put it down. My morning message allows for me to put it down and let in something new and fresh, let in a new perspective, let in a new viewpoint, be reminded of why I started, be reminded of why I am capable, be reminded that what it is that I have built is complete and it is worthy. I need to be reminded, and I'm a grossly ambitious, enthusiastic person. So I know those that are not grossly ambitious or equally as enthusiastic equally need to be reminded. And there is nothing wrong with remembering. There's nothing wrong with the practice. Think about it. Serena Williams, Simone Biles, they go to practice every day, and they are the greatest. So why shouldn't you practice? Why should it come easy? Why should it just be a thing that is inherent? The greatest athletes of the world still hone their skills. They have more trophies than they have years in their lives, and they still practice. So what I say when you feel as if you aren't going to get it, I say, create a practice. When I say you wake up and nothing is going to change, then start with something small. I wanted to go from no lashes to being a global entity. And I knew that it only needed to start with one practice. And this practice, 300 segments later, has connected me globally to amazing and remarkable women, has changed my life in a way that I cannot imagine or I would never have predicted, because I decided to commit to using my voice and sharing the words of others to keep people inspired and motivated. I decided to move forward. I accepted the fact that the 2 weeks in which I was, again, eating Doritos and Oreos and not putting on lashes were part of my journey, a hurdle in which I needed to jump. But once I had cleared it, I ran straight for the finish line. You all have the opportunity to do the same. Life is hard. 2020 was hard. 2021 was hard, continues to be hard. Life is difficult. The journeys that we have chosen are hard. But what makes it easy not only is this beautiful community, but our willingness to sit still and acknowledge that we have come so far, knowing we have further to go, but knowing we sure as hell aren't where we were. It's an amazing thing to take that moment. I had met what I thought was a mentor, an individual that I was obsessed with when we went to trade shows. You guys remember trade shows? I'm still obsessed. I cannot wait. I have dreams about recycled gift bags and stress balls and logoed tablecloths. I cannot wait. I love a good trade show and a conference. You know what I mean? A little keynote speaker and a pad and a pen, right? And that used to be my space. I mean, I was in my element. I'd wait for the keynote speaker. I'd have my pen, my logoed pad that I got from some insurance company, right? And I'm so excited, and I make my way to the front of the stage. And I sit there with bated breath, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I love exactly what they are saying. And what would happen ultimately every single time is that I would get in my car and say, that was inspirational, but now what? How do I get there? I want to be that person. I want to live their life. I want all that they have. I want to understand how they got from living in a car to being on a stage. They've inspired me, but as days went by without a practice, everything began to fade, right? It became a recycled tote bag in the corner with a lanyard that I never revisited, as opposed to a practice that I lived by. So my practice came from wanting to continue to be inspired, wanting to continue to be motivated. The next piece of being still came from this encounter. I went to, again, bated breath, pen and notepad, went to this keynote speech. Could not even remember the man's name as we speak. Waited in line. You know how that is, right? Can't wait. Sign the book, waited in line. Waiting in line. And I had that moment. And as you know, by this point, you know that I'm overly enthusiastic. You know that I'm excited. Now I've waited in line for this gentleman for me to introduce myself. I shake his hand and I give him full Cheldin. I mean, poor guy, right? The poor guy was probably like, what is happening? I gave it all. And he said something so miraculous to me. And he said, sis, which is a whole thing, but he said, sis, we'll have a whole meeting about that. But he said, sis, can I give you some advice? And I said, yes. I said, I need you to slow down. I need you to be still. And at the first I was kind of like, and then he continued. He's just like, I can tell that you are going to get everything that you have just mentioned. I can tell your energy, you can feel it from the back of the room. But you are moving so quickly that what you deserve cannot catch you. I was like, what? What? You are moving so quickly that what you deserve cannot catch you. So all of us that are busy being busy, I hear you and I see you. All of us that are busy in the busyness of life, all of us that have to do more, have to be able to, we are moving so quickly that we are missing opportunities. My morning message affords me the ability at that moment, at that day, to be still, for people to know where I am in that moment, to come find me if they need me, for me to be found for those that I need. We are moving so quickly that what we deserve cannot catch me. What I have built cannot reward me. A lot of that had to do in my own reflection with me not even appreciating what I had, right? I'm up there telling this gentleman all that I need without necessarily even knowing that I had the majority of things in my possession. In the beginning of quarantine, same thing. I'm in the social media space. I post so much. You see me every day at 11. And what I was doing was I was fixated in the more. I needed more followers, more likes, more exposure, right? More shares, all the mores, right? And what I would do is I would be like, okay, Linda, you're good? Okay, more. Okay, Susie, you're good? More. I spent so much time looking to gain more that I wasn't fostering, taking care of, nurturing, appreciating, thanking the people who had followed, fanned, and liked me for years. They were dispensable in replacing of the more. The interesting thing about this time that we are in is that we are under this false assumption that we need 1 million people to follow us in order to make $1 million. We need all of these people in our world in order to be able to have a fruitful life. And that is not true. The quality of things versus the quantity of things is a necessity. And I know that it is not the internet's, I believe that it's not the internet's fault. We were all starstruck by how quickly we could build communities and how quickly we can gain people to follow us and get people to pay attention. And now we have learned that being still, slowing down, focusing on quality, gaining structure is what is needed in order to ensure that not only are we living our best lives, but we are creating the best products and services and strong businesses that will serve the communities in which we have prayed for and which we deserve. My mother left me Post-its so I could utilize the words of others when I did not have the words. And now I take in that spirit and offer a morning message to my community to share inspiration and motivation each and every day, so individuals can find their voice, so they can be confident enough to tell their story, so they can no longer whisper their wishes and they can scream their dream. Thank you so much for having me.
Woo, 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 woo.
That was fun.
I mean, you can't come back to a silent, muted space. What?
You guys are awesome. That was fun. That was fun. Listen. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's the journey's real, fam. It's real and it's hard. And this was my answer, right? In a world of distractions too. I mean, we have to really look at the world that we're living in. And I think that oftentimes advice is given in the silo of things as opposed to in the reality of things, right? And the reality of things is that we have a lot going on. I had a therapist that I was working with. He was leaning back in his chair. He said to me, well, in a course of a month, we go through tough times. And I just let him finish. And I said, a course of a month? I'm like, by noon, sir, by noon, I will have a text message and an email. And he's like, the ups and downs. And I'm like, we'll have a great text message and then a bad email and then a good email and then a call from your child's school. And then you're like, you get a flat tire and you get all of the different emotions that come with the day to day. And the remarkable woman that I serve does more before noon than the average person does in 7 days. So how do you manage that without saying, you brought it up, like all of these spaces, I mean, I think that because of the uniqueness of the type of person that is out there doing this and creating this and being in this world and contributing and raising and sharing, there needs to be a place that not only applauds that, but celebrates it and encourages you to celebrate it as well. I think half of our issues is that we just exist and we're not grateful for existing in the first place. We're not grateful and celebrating how far we've come. We're always so disappointed on what we have left to do. And I just really took the time in this time to begin to celebrate the victories of my life and to really begin to share those with others, even if others don't want to hear it. I think that that's another piece too, right? Like we're like, okay, I'm being, nobody wants to hear my positivity. Nobody wants to hear this anymore. Nobody wants another hug. Okay, well, here's the deal. We are not, okay, you can have a hug, Rach. Not everyone is for you. Those that deserve you hear you differently. Those that deserve you hear you differently. They are fluent in the language of Cheldin, in the language of Clarissa, in the language of Tammy, in the language of Rachel. They're fluent in your language. If you, the same amount of energy that I use to convince people of my worth, I could be using to celebrate my worth with others. How would I like to spend my time? Begging people who are ill-equipped, who are literally do not understand my language, right? And so it's not to say that I disregard them, but it's to say I departmentalize them, right? So the individuals in your life that don't understand you, that are not fluent in your language of ambition, that doesn't mean you have to cut them off. That just means that you must departmentalize what you are telling them, so you are not wasting your energy in which it is not making sense, right? So my father is a doctor of chemistry, West African, I still make no sense. He's like, so you talk to yourself, who pays you? This is what this man says. So even to this day, right? And he loves it, he loves it, he watches it. I watched your YouTube, talking to me about my use of adjectives. I can't, right? In that space, that's what he does. He loves me. I know he loves me. He'll go and sit in any stadium in which I'm giving a speech. He watched me play sport, but he's not going to understand the idiosyncrasies of what it is that I'm doing, right? Me telling him that I didn't have a client or this didn't work makes him nervous, not because he hates me, but because in fact he loves me, right? Wouldn't being a director of marketing for the Hyatt be easier, Cheldin? Yes, it would be easier, right? So what I don't share with him is the valleys of this journey. I share with him the hills of this journey. Makes him feel better. Is it fair? No, it might not necessarily be fair, but I'm going to share the valleys with those that understand the valleys, right? It's my huddle analogy. I'm an ex-sports. I played sports. I played field hockey and ran track for LaSalle in Philadelphia. My team, when I played field hockey, my team knew whose ankle hurt, whose parents just got a divorce, who we knew. In the huddle, we knew who was coming to the table in the space, whose boyfriend just broke up with them, who was hungover at the game. We knew that. And so we could be able to play according to what we knew within that huddle. In the stands, they didn't know. They didn't know. And then in the stands is where we get the most criticism. In the stands is where they say, oh, you should get rid of that quarterback. You should get rid of your coach. You shouldn't have ran that play. That comes from the stands. That doesn't come from the field, right? And there's a reason why they're in the stands, my loves, is they could never play the game, ever, ever. They would have never made the team. They could never play the game. Let them buy the ticket and focus on your huddle. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that is the analogy that I have lived by. Let them buy the ticket. Let them wear the jersey. Let them even bring the orange wedges, whatever. But they're not on the field with you. Focus on the team. And that should only be 5 or 6 people, period, hard stop. Like it should be no more than that. Not everyone needs to be involved in that. They don't get it. They're not on the journey. And all they'll do is distract you from where it is that you need to be. The people in the huddle, that team, we lose on a Sunday. We still have practice on Monday together, right? Regardless, we lose the whole season. We practice the whole time. We showed up for the games every single week and lost and still went to practice. That's what you need. We get distracted by the fans in the stands. We get distracted by people who never played the game. And so we don't adhere to our practice. We don't adhere to our morning message. If I listened, I mean, literally in LinkedIn the other day, she was like, do you find LinkedIn Lives to be useful, a proper use of your time? And I said, I never know who needs me. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's a great perspective. Because it is. Like, it is. You never know. And through those, I'm meeting so many amazing people and I don't need 1 million followers. I don't. I don't. In order to be successful, in order to make money, in order to take care of my kids, in order to go on vacation, I don't need 1 million followers. I just need the right followers. I need my community. I need the individuals who understand my voice. And so I hope from this, you take that. I hope from this, you take the small steps that you are making isn't for the masses. It's for your personal impact and to strengthen your voice and your place in your own world. And so I hope that this was helpful for all that are listening. And I encourage all of you to stay in contact, tune in to listen to the morning message. I broadcast live at 11 o'clock on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And then, I pop up on Instagram, time and time again. More information can be found at thisisItTV.com. I love you guys. This was so much fun.
Oh, Cheldin, we love you too. I mean, I don't even say preaching, because just thank you for speaking from your heart.
Thank you.
From your own personal experience. Yeah. It is, you talk about speaking to those people who are receptive to you, who speak your own language. And I can tell you, every receptor in my body is receiving what you have been putting out. And I can imagine that that's what is going on with everyone else who will be listening to this call.
Thank you.
In consideration that we are live with 2 people on here.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because that's what you've been saying.
Yes.
Give them an opportunity with our last few moments to ask maybe any burning question that's
anything
on their tongue, or just
anything, or even just a comment, whatever it is that if anybody wants to unmute. Listen, I'm here. I'm open. I know because I've failed is the next book.
Yes.
Thank you, Cheldin, for this conversation. Words. So this is kind of perfect timing. And like Rachel was like, I was going to text you to remind you to come on today. And I saw the text message. Thank you, Tammy, or whoever created that, because it's brilliant. No matter how many planners I have, I don't look at them in the morning.
Me too. Me too.
It's digital, it's paper, it's everywhere. So from the story of your mom with the Post-its, I literally had Post-its all around my room. Not with quotes, but like ideas, which I guess is similar to it. But kind of what you're doing is what my friend and I are creating. So I would genuinely love to meet you and connect with you. I work in Center City. We're actually starting a channel to talk about community and impact and encouraging people to get out of the barriers that society has placed on them, or they place on themselves to actually do what they want to do.
Amen.
So perfect timing. I'm actually also kind of this past 2 weeks been creating like this morning nightly routine to like get myself together. I got like my plans all up here. I tend to them 2 to 3 times a week, like perfect timing. So I cannot wait to meet you in person if you are available to do so.
Always available.
Always.
Always, give me any kind of beverage, cold, hot, doesn't matter.
Perfect.
I'm all for it. We will get together for sure. Well, I mean, we need more of it. It's also a very interesting thing too, where people are like, well, she's doing this and this one's doing this. I'm like, have anybody been to the grocery store? How many different types of potato chips do you see?
Yes.
Like hers wasn't like, oh, Lay's is doing potato chips. Like, let's get out of the potato chip game. Like, that's not how it is. Like, we as women get so fixated. We need more communities. Communities to me moving forward is like what magazine subscriptions were. The way, if you were in fashion, you read Vogue, you read Insta, you read them all because you wanted to be abreast of what the industry was doing. I think communities are going to be like that. You're going to tap into all of these communities so you are knowledgeable. Again, as youth, we were learning every year. We stopped doing that. We were conditioned to just work for the rest with the assumption that you knew everything. But now with this continued education in these communities that we can all tap into, and communities can begin to work together and share, it's just a beautiful thing. So launch it. Let's talk about it. I'm excited to learn more. Please.
Hi. I'm Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
You are awesome and inspirational. And I was so moved by what you said, and especially, kind of people not understanding who we are. And I think through Rise, it always goes back to like being ourselves, being authentic, and understanding and accepting that the way we are and our energy is not for everyone.
It's not.
And I'm really trying hard to not take it personally.
Yeah.
And just be myself. And you're spot on with the Post-its. I do it for my daughter and I do it for my son. And I hope that I can share this with my daughter, this recorded video, because she will understand when I try to inspire, and it's not lecturing. Yeah. It's trying to instill. And when you spoke about your mother, it sounded so much like my relationship with my daughter.
Yeah.
And now she gets it. Like when I send her something, we don't say anything. I just send it.
You don't have to say anything. You don't have to, right? And it's just an education in that way, Dawn, right? Like we are observers. We're observers of how we took it in. Like I didn't even realize that she was teaching me while she was teaching me. Like mothers are stealth movement, right? Like in the way in which we were like navigate, right? Didn't even realize that it was a lesson. But those are the lessons now with my young daughter are the same thing, like being a good person. And it's still because I'm showing her, right, in that way. And the boundaries necessarily, we want to be pleasers. I mean, I want everyone to like me, right? I want to do, but I realize that some individuals were taking advantage of that space. And it, not to say that it's not going to hurt you, right? I think that also becomes, when we try to avoid pain, we just need to learn, because pain is unavoidable, right? Because it's coming. Right. And so when we try to avoid it, we're also losing experiences. Right. And we're also not living in that moment or living in those moments. But then, I think that these past 2 years, as uncomfortable as they've been, now I know. Yeah. Now I know how to navigate conversations. Now I know how to navigate feelings. Now I know how to, and there's something empowering about knowing that this person doesn't get me, as opposed to feeling bad about it.
Huge. And then you can stop. You can stop trying to explain yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. Now let's go get something to eat. Because I know what telling you about it means. Yeah. That means that you're going to dissect it as an exercise for you. And I'm not doing that. We're going to eat. We can have some Pinot Grigio on ice and we can have a good time. But I don't necessarily need to, at my at my expense, do that, right? And then I can pick up the phone and be like, Dawn, oh my gosh, I just launched this thing. And then that becomes, right, a different experience and
so much better
use of your time.
It just feels it's so clear now, and it feels so much better.
Yeah, it's an empowering thing. The relationships changed because they don't want to hear. My father didn't want to hear it either because it made his heart hurt. Right? Like me being poor or broke or things not working out made him want to fix it. Right. For me. You know what I mean? And his answer to fixing it was get a job at the Hyatt, right? Not like, let's sit down and workshop your business. You know what I mean? Right. Like that wasn't the answer. So what I did was when I do gain the accolades and I'm in the paper, or I get these, first one there, right? Because he can digest that. And that's also me respecting his abilities or lack thereof at the same time. It's a healthier, now there's toxic people and mean people. That's different than my dad and people that love us and don't know how to process it. Those people have just been cut off.
I liked what you said about your family too. I think it's really beautiful because we go back to our family of origin and accept each other and realize that that's the true support system.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and it's an interesting thing. So I come from a world of academics. Everybody has 90 million degrees. And again, I talk to myself on Facebook. And but there are things in which I'm very good. I mean, again, I'm the one who gives the speech at every family event. I'm the one who throws the party. We've beautifully owned this matrix of who it is that we all are. And it is gorgeous when we've accepted each other's strengths. Not that I cannot do math. Not that I'm not, can't run an Excel sheet, but my sister who's an engineer, no problem. So what I did that was a realization of this is that I was planning in quarantine, I was planning what I was going to do for the business. And I spent literally 72 hours creating this ridiculous spreadsheet that did not work. It did not work. 72 hours. Cutting and pasting and none of the cells work. I mean, it was awful. I picked up the phone. I called my baby sister, right? Who's 38, but whatever. My baby sister. I said, Ada, I need you to help me with this. I sent it to this woman, and in 20 minutes, sent it back like this. And I was like, like that. But the lesson in that, Valley, was let go of things that do not belong to you. I will not get those 72 hours back. Why?
Right.
Why am I, when I literally had the resource and the person who only took 20 minutes to cut and paste and figure it out? There's something empowering about letting that go and allowing me to give the toast at every birthday party, allowing me to, because they don't want to do, they literally just all look at me like, they do not want to do it, right? And if they would, they'd be like, you know, so let me do that. Let me live in that. And I think that we don't get taught that, right? We don't get taught that. Ideally, be everything to everyone. No, nope.
I'm so glad we could let go of that philosophy, that belief, be everything to everyone.
Yes, it's so important. It's freeing.
It's very
so
freeing. Thank you
heavy.
so much. You're awesome.
Oh my gosh. Dawn, you're so lovely. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Tammy and Rachel always connect me to gorgeous and amazing people. I'm so excited. This is so fun.
Thank you so much for this morning.
Of course, this is a perfect way to spend my morning. Thank you so much, ladies. If you need me for anything, always call upon me.